It's
until we get this going.
I'm gonna show you. No, I didn't.
Jack Edwards Reserve here in the southeast of Melbourne. We do apologise for the early technical difficulties on the stream, but we are underway here between the Oakleigh Cannons and the Port Melbourne Sharks. I'm Josh Parrish alongside my co-commentator Lockie Flanagan. Lockie, welcome.
Thanks, Josh. It's nice to finally be back here after a week away and also be here, broadcasting this game live. It's great.
So we did unfortunately miss a goal. Port Melbourne Sharks have opened the scoring through Michael Eager, of all people. 2 goals in 2 weeks. Lockie, do you want to walk the viewers through an action replay?
Well, it was a ball held up in the corner there. They won an early corner, the Port Melbourne Sharks, and a beautiful ball whipped in. And, Michael Eager, he does occasionally like to drift forward out of nowhere. Here's a bit of an enigmatic play. I've seen it do it a couple of times, particularly against Hume, where he ran from defence all the way up front to press the ball, and he drifted forward and fired one home off a lovely ball into the penalty area to give Port Melbourne what I think is a deserved 1-0 lead from what I've seen. They've held the ball very well so far in this game.
Started with great energy here. The pressing from the front has been spectacular. They've been playing with pace, and Port Melbourne, Oakleigh Cannons, 2 similar teams, both punching above their weight, some might say, in NPL Victoria, both trying to secure a finals position, as there's a good through ball played here to Brody Taylor, but the flag is up early and he's offside. We'll run you through the starting lineups of both teams. Unfortunately, with the belated start here on the stream. John Honos, of course, in goals, the veteran. The centre-back pairing for Oakleigh is Rama Tavsansioglu and Blair Govan. At left-back, Hamish Miller continues as we get a flick on here from the returning Harry White. And now Pashkowski to try and deliver into the area. It's deflected up into the air. Half cleared by Port Melbourne. Back into the area by Pashkowski, but it's drifted harmlessly over the crossbar. Continuing with the lineups there, that's Ryan Pashkowski playing on the wing with Hamish Miller behind him at left back. And on the opposite side, Tom Matthews, the captain, at right back. Wade Decker on the right wing. The central midfield pairing is Matthew Fascini and Luke Pavlu. Joe Guest in the number 10 position and Harry White returning to the starting 11 in the number 9 position after a week's absence due to accumulated yellow cards. But Lockie, a major talking point going to this game is which forward option would Chris Taylor go for after Milos Lujic rolled back the years with his brace last week?
Yeah, well, you would have thought that maybe surely after 2 goals, even given the disappointing season that he's had, that he might have gotten the start. But maybe, he has been a player who's come off the substitutes bench, played a couple of minutes in stoppage time pretty consistently over the year. So maybe, after running out the majority of the game last week, I'm pretty sure he ran out the majority of the game, maybe just his body a little underdone, perhaps, and maybe that informs the decision to put him on the bench despite the performance last week. Having said that, Harry White, was in great form before he missed last week, I believe, through suspension, so you can understand his inclusion back into the starting 11 tonight.
Here's Harry White again, trying to combine with Decker. Decker out to the wing for Pashkowski. What's the cross like? It's a threatening delivery and just away by Michael Eager. Second ball for Sheeny, and that's out for a corner, deflected.
It'll be interesting to see how this early goal for Port Melbourne is going to affect Oakleigh. The one thing that I've noticed about their play in the last 2 weeks is that they have got early goals. I think in the 13th minute against City and the 11th the week before against Bentley Greens. Early goal is perfect for a team like Oakleigh who can get that early advantage and then sit back and play off the break, which is what they like to do. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they sort of are forced into working with the ball here and have to go the other way.
Pashkowski on set-piece duties. He whips one into the near post for Matthews. It's flicked just beyond the post. Took a deflection on the way through. Referee says corner. Pashkowski will have to trudge all the way to the opposite side.
That was his second good delivery in about as many minutes. He's a real jack of all trades, Pashkowski.
Prepares to deliver another corner. Plenty of tall timber here for Oakleigh. They did score off a set piece last week. Delivery into the front post. Morwith comes for it, and Morwith gathers on the second attempt, although he spilt it there. And it's out for another corner. A bit of early butterfingers from the former Melbourne City goalkeeper.
Well, he is a young player coming, of course, from the Melbourne City Youth Academy in the mid-season transfer window. And it is a massive game, so you can maybe understand maybe a couple of first-minute nerves, perhaps, informing that mistake there.
Pashkowski eschews the short option for Decker and floats it in towards the back post. Govan was up. It's chaos in the penalty area. Joe Guest on the second ball, deflected into the air and away by Eager. And Port Melbourne do finally clear their lines. Pashkowski back to Pavlu. Does his job at the base of midfield. Pavlu, very simple player, very effective. Certainly a mainstay of this Oakleigh lineup this season. Miller. Back to Govan. Plays it square to Rama, who's under a bit of pressure here from Kamal Ibrahim. And Honos will clear. Up to the air. We'll run you through the Port Melbourne lineup as well. Majak Morwith starts between the sticks at centre-back. The pairing is Makir with Michael Eager. Number 2 at right-back is, of course, Amadou Karoma. That's an awkward bouncing one for John Honos. He has to use his head. And Connor Geyer on the second ball. Loose touch. Ram is able to clear. Now Finn Beakhurst. Trying to size up Miller. Miller got a foot in. Keeps it alive. For Sheeny. Sheeny gets a second opportunity. Here's Miller. Trying to switch play towards Harry White, who's drifted out to the right flank. De Godoy always favoured for that one, but White using his strength superbly to win that ball. Twisting and turning. And now Matthews. And Matthews, his cross just evaded Wade Decker's run at the front post.
You could make the argument there, Josh, that perhaps a bigger bodied forward, a sort of right place, right time kind of striker could have poked that one home, perhaps. Milos Lujic, where are you?
I can tell you where he is. He's on the bench. Back down to earth after his brace last week to seal the game against Dandenong City. All right, so a very in-form side in the second half of this NPL Victoria season. Continuing with the lineup, McCare and Michael Eager at centre-back. Amadou Karoma at right-back. At left-back, it's Kaio De Godoy. And in midfield, interesting combination of Daniel Clark, Yuta Konagaya, and of course holding at the base of the midfield is Curran Ferns, who comes into the 11, with Finn Beakhurst, Kamal Ibrahim on the flanks. And playing up top is the very versatile Brodie Taylor, who came across from the Bentley Greens in the mid-season transfer window. Fashini. Pavli. And you can see this forward pressure of Port Melbourne. It's really been stifling Oakleigh's play out from the back. Here's Pashkowski, though, when he hit higher up the field, will do well for them. White couldn't quite get it under his spell. Here's Daniel Clark. Crowded midfield. Back to McCare. Now Eager, who had to slide desperately to keep that away from the Oakleigh attacker. Now De Godoy, who scored last week. Both fullbacks and a centre-back on the score sheet in that win over Dandenong Thunder. Pavlu, his raking ball doesn't quite find its target. Headed away by Eager for a throw. Guest, using his body. Guest has done well there. He releases Miller. Here's Miller for Pashkowski, trying to get it in the centre. McCare heads away. Calmly done by Konagaya. Now for Sheeny for Miller. Beakhurst off his touch, wins it. Back with Pavlu, calmly done. Govan. Miller. Pashkowski. Miller. Joe Guest has done well to get onto that one. The English import, the star playmaker in this Oakleigh 11, steps inside. Sliding challenge from Clark, I believe it was. In fact, it was Ferns. Now Ibrahim. That's a thumping tackle from Luke Pavlu, and now Wade Decker might be away. Here's Decker for White. Back heel to Decker, he shoots on goal, it's just wide. Great combination play from Oakleigh off the turnover in midfield. And it all started with that fantastic sliding challenge from Luke Pavlu.
That's almost a trademark Oakleigh-style move there, you know, picking up the ball with the opposition team in an attacking area and just transitioning the ball almost at breakneck speed there. You know, they've certainly got the players to you know, utilise that sort of game style, and it doesn't quite come off there, but you suspect that'll still be, you know, the route to goal for the Cannons tonight.
Morwith's long goal kick, it'll drift out for a throw. Oakleigh side, I wouldn't say are renowned for their flair. Chris Taylor's side's usually more functional than stylish, but that 1-2 between Decker and White, it's a combination that served them well in the second half of this campaign. It's Ibrahim, the FV gold medalist back in 2015 for Konagaya. Konagaya just a little too much on the pass from the Japanese playmaker, and it evades Beakhurst.
Konagaya certainly a player of immense technical quality. That's something that we've certainly, it's been on display in his time with Port Melbourne, also at his time with Blacktown City in New South Wales, but been a little a little rusty so far in this game. A miscontrolled touch on the edge of the area where he might have had the angle for the shot and just overcooking the pass there. But positive signs nonetheless going forward for Port Melbourne.
Wide up for the header. He flicks it on. McCare equal to it. Now Ferns. For Kaio de Godoy. De Godoy's lofted ball looking for Beekhurst. Beekhurst was offside and the play will not continue. Rama gets things started quickly. Here's Miller. Oh, lovely touch from Harry White to evade McCare. And he gets it on his right foot. I'm not sure if that was a shot or a cross. It wasn't particularly effective in either regard. Or with 3 starts short through Eager. Karoma, lovely touch off the chest. Looking for Beekhurst. He's got pace to burn. Beekhurst cuts it back for Brodie Taylor. Taylor gets an important touch. Back to Karoma. And Hamish Miller has done well to win that ball back. The counter-attack for Oakleigh breaks down. Konagaya. Taylor. Miller's clearance blocked. That's pretty physical stuff from Ramazan Tavsancioglu. He's really pancaked the midfielder there. I think it was Daniel Clark.
And we saw in that preceding attack there, Amadou Karoma, bombing up the side of the field there to nearly create that cutback into the area, which is something that Port Melbourne love to do. They do love to get those cutbacks across the face of goal, but another thing that they really love is getting those fullbacks high and wide. Love to have the fullbacks bombing forward, and given Pashkowski has started this game quite well, maybe that's an area, that space in behind the fullbacks when they're moving forward is something that Oakleigh can exploit on the break.
Absolutely. Ibrahim over the free kick, and it's just wide. Honos, I'm sure, will claim he had it covered. As you mentioned, the attacking fullbacks from Port Melbourne have already had quite a profound influence on this game. And when you've got players of the technical quality and physical capacity of Amadou Karoma and Kaio de Godoy, why wouldn't you use them in that way? Taylor's. Cleared by Rama. Flicked on by White. Excellent tackle from McCare. Here's Fashini. Finds Guest. Guest on the turn, delivers with his left. Dangerous ball in. Could go anywhere. In fact, it's Michael Eager who clears. Pavley. Guest. Pashkowski. Appeals for handball there. Would have been a harsh decision against Curran Ferns. Pavley with the interception. Port Melbourne without one of the linchpins of their midfield in Alan Mukahi. Picked up too many yellow cards and will miss this week. Here's Konagaya. Karoma. Back with Konagaya now. Ferns. De Godoy. Try and play one between the lines, but well anticipated by Rama. Here's the second ball with Brodie Taylor. Back to Ibrahim. And delivered into the area by De Godoy, and again, the experience of Ramazan Tavsancioglu. Crucial.
Once again, there you see that quintessential, Port Melbourne method of getting the ball forward. You see De Godoy, further ahead than Ibrahim out there on that left-hand flank, and again trying to cut the ball across the box.
It's Ibrahim trying to take on his defender. He'll win a free kick. Feet too quick. Kamal Ibrahim. Too quick even for a former A-leaguer in Matthew Fashini. Port Melbourne have another set-piece opportunity. Ibrahim's delivery, well fielded in the end by John Honos. Oakleigh really struggling to create here. Forward pressure from Port Melbourne has really suffocated them, and I think that's a credit to the coach, Adam Piddick. He's been a very savvy operator in NPL Victoria ever since his appointment 2 years ago. One of the highly rated young coaches in this division. Eager's header. We've seen many NPL Victoria teams benefit from the strategy of bringing in talent from Queensland. Notably, Bentley Greens have gone down that route many a time. Daniel Clark is one of those, as is the coach, Adam Piddick, who himself used to coach up in the Queensland NPL. Zigodoy. Ibrahim for Clark. Taylor wanted it earlier. Instead, Clark goes it alone. Covering challenge from Govan. What does the referee say? He says fair challenge, and Oakleigh have even won the throw. Great covering challenge from Blair Govan. With Honos for Govan. Govan for Miller. It's too far for White. Appeals for a free kick. Decker. With Fashini. No foul, says the referee. Must admit, I thought McCare picked up a piece of the player before the ball, but play goes on. Ibrahim. Fashini. Guest. That's a loose pass from Hamish Miller. Difficulty of having a right-footed left back. He's quite a utility player, but perhaps struggles going forward, Hamish Miller.
They certainly do like to play direct. Oakleigh did say that they're not always the most technical going forward, but, you know, direct is still certainly an exciting method of attacking, but maybe, you know, sometimes it's got to be a bit more horses for courses, maybe progressing the ball a little bit too quickly there.
Been on a bit of a charmed run lately, Oakleigh.
A bit of a charmed run.
Well, they've knocked off some very impressive opposition. This is a real test for them, down a goal against a team that doesn't give up too many. Here's Miller. Karoma's clearance, Miller again. And Pashkowski using his body. In fact, on a 5-game winning streak in the league.
I think April 25th was their, or April 27th was their last defeat. I think that was to Avondale.
Yes, Quite right. Oh, and that's a costly turnover nearly from the man who's given Port Melbourne the lead. Bit of careless play at the back. Not something you usually associate with Michael Eager. Lovely feet from Karoma. Beakers can't quite get onto it. Too much weight on the pass. Ibrahim. Eager. McCare with Ferns now. Good pressure from Fashini, but they do play through the lines here. He's Daniel Clark. Clark for Ibrahim. And Clark gets the return now, but it's good recovery pace from Luke Pavlu. Well played by the young man. He's Rama. Again, Oakleigh can't capitalise off the turnover. Pavlu going in hard for that one on Konagaya again. Didn't quite win the ball, but he managed to put off the Japanese attacker. And there have been murmurings, Lockie, just murmurings, that Luke Pavlu is attracting interest from some big teams. Here's De Godoy, might strike on goal, and it's just over the crossbar from Kaio De Godoy. And now they will treat the injured player. Here's Brody Taylor. I think it's down on the far side, and the bench is being called on to. Seems to be holding his face, maybe a bloody nose. But as I was saying, Lockie, Luke Pavlu, there are murmurings, whispers in NPL land that he's attracting interest from none other than Melbourne Victory.
Well, you know what? Having watched 3 consecutive Oakleigh games now and commentating 2 of them, I can certainly see why. You know, his fellow, defensive midfield partner there in Matt Fashini, a former Victory player, no less, that those two certainly combine and progress the ball nicely from the base of midfield. So I don't think it comes as much of a surprise given how well Pavlu's played individually and also how well Oakleigh have played collectively as a unit, that, the players within that system are starting to generate a real buzz.
He's not a player who stands out maybe at first viewing, but when you watch him for a few weeks, you really appreciate the small things that he does well in his position. A lot of discipline in his positional play, very tenacious in the tackle despite his rather slim frame, and he's still a very young man. Plenty of growing to do, both physically and as a footballer. That's a long bomb in the direction of Pashkowski. And De Godoy just eases him out of the way for Morwith to claim. You can just see the passes from the fullbacks into those little inside channels like that one. And really what Port Melbourne have been focusing on. Just getting down the sides of those 2 holding midfielders, trying to stretch them out. Ibrahim, lovely feet, beats one. And it's good tracking back from Fashini. And now Decker has an opportunity in transition. And that's a poor ball from Wade Decker. Again, the Oakleigh attack breaks down, much to the frustration of the fans in front of us.
Well, Oakleigh already a goal down in this game, and a lot on the line in the game as well. You really can't afford to be making mistakes like that when you've got the Port Melbourne defence travelling backwards and on a platter.
Decker. Twists and turns, Konagaya wins it back. Now Taylor. Beakhurst. Out for Ibrahim. It was intended for Konagaya, but Miller read the passing channel well. White for Decker. Plays in Guest. Guest steps inside for the shot, but that's wayward off his weaker right foot.
Look, you think if there's anyone within this Oakleigh side that could maybe get an equaliser on individual brilliance alone. I think it would be Joey Guest, but unfortunately not on that occasion.
Maybe if he was on the opposite side, cutting in onto his left, Lockie.
Well, I have to say, I'm surprised that Oakleigh aren't deciding to attack that right-hand flank a little bit more. I mean, as the ball was coming forward there, it was Digadoy had pushed so far up the field that it was Ibrahim who was playing as a makeshift left back there. So there is space in behind those. Those overloads are dangerous for Port Melbourne going forward, but there's certainly space in behind to be exploited.
It's a lovely touch from Joe Guest, but the pass just doesn't match up. Quite right, Lockie. I think those transition moments are where Oakleigh will have the most joy. Haven't been able to get much in terms of quality delivery into the box so far.
There have been some in the early moments from Pashkowski, as we've touched on before, but almost lacking a focal point at the present moment.
You banging the drum for Milosh again.
I absolutely am. I've seen too many 2015 South Melbourne games.
And that's offside against Digadoy. Matthews trying to get things started as quickly as possible. Oakleigh going to muster a response before the end of the first half.
But if I do take off, my Milos Lujic cap and act more as a neutral observer, the way these two teams are set up tactically, it does seem to favour a focal point for Oakleigh, a target man in the middle, because the spaces to exploit are in wide areas, which are not always providing opportunities with which to shoot. They provide opportunities with which to cross. So maybe a target man will be what's needed, and might be what Chris Taylor will turn to as this game progresses.
Here's Bashkowski, tries an inventive, not altogether effective ball, and that's out for a goal kick. Some updates from around the grounds. Melbourne Knights are up 1-0 at home over at Summer Street to lowly Pascoe Vale. Mohammed Awad with the opener in the 18th minute, and hasn't he been a revelation since coming over from New Zealand mid-season? And Bentley Greens and Heidelberg have just kicked off that match, being played under the auspices of Premier League referee Simon Hooper, who's over in Australia on the FFA PGMOL exchange program. Often you get an NPL Victoria game officiated by a man with that experience. Second versus third certainly be crucial in determining the makeup of the top three come finals time. That's turned over by Govan. Here's Karoma. Clark. Karoma wants it back. He gets it back. Tries to play the 1-2. Maybe a little force there from Daniel Clark. And Miller tries to set Guest away, but again, the pass misses its target. Ferns is able to step in and cover.
That's the moment, though, Josh, where the pass needs to stick for Oakleigh if they're going to punish the way Port Melbourne are playing at the moment.
That's a late challenge from Curran Ferns, and he'll go into the book. I believe it's the first yellow card we've seen this evening. A late tackle there. I think it was Pashkowski. Now Govan. Eager's header. It's Taylor. For Pavlu. Looking for Guest. Guest with the header. And it's a great save by Morwith. And White can't quite get onto the rebounds. Blocked and away for a corner. But nervous moments for Port Melbourne.
That was a beautiful bit of rhyming from you there, Josh. Almost as beautiful as that save from Majak Morwith. He had a fantastic game last week against Dandenong City. And he's producing a similar quality of save so far this evening.
That was a wonderful save. Not often that Joe Guest gets a headed attempt on goal in his diminutive stature, but it was well directed, and Morwith comes out again to punch the cross, showing his athleticism. Miller lofted back into the mixer. Now Govan. for Guest. Fashini. Fashini delivers into the box. Decker was up for it, too high for either of them. Now Pavlu. Pavlu, will he have a crack on goal? No, he plays the short pass. Didn't have space for a shot, but it's not really his game. The anchor man at the base of the midfield. He's Fashini on the overlap, almost playing as a right fullback there.
Well, we were touching before on Luke Pavlu's quality on the defensive side of things, those last year's tackles, but the last two attacks that Oakleigh have come into being thanks to Luke Pavlu.
And Eager, again, with a crucial intervention, safely into the arms of Morwith in the end. He'll restart through Karoma. Clark. Back with McCare. McCare. Geared in the direction of Connor Geyer. He brings it down nicely. I think Port Melbourne will be very happy with this first half. Coming up against one of the informed teams in the division. Fashini held back, and that's a free kick. It's 3 minutes to play, plus stoppages here. Long diagonal towards Harry White. Flicks it to Decker. Back to Miller. Eager with the clearance. Miller closing down. And Fashini with a long crack on goal. And what an effort. Morwith's towering frame equal to it. But Matt Fashini put plenty behind that. Govan up for the header. Decker. Pashkowski. That's over everybody. Fashini, and that's shanked. High, wide, and behind the goal.
Well, I think it's safe to say the sequel wasn't quite as good as the original on that shot there from Matt Fashini. Forced a strong save from Morwith on the first one, but that one is well wide of the goals, as you said. I know it's easy to get excited and maybe overhype young Australian goalkeepers like Majak Morwith, but he is a player that has really impressed me so far. I mean, I've watched him personally in the NPL too, but also since he's joined Port Melbourne, making the step up to the top tier, so impressive. Not just his pure shot stopping, but he's one of those really traditional, not traditional, in fact, modern goalkeepers who are able to, their shot stopping ability is equal to their ability to distribute the ball as well, and it's just crucial for a modern day side.
Well intercepted by Ferns. Now a transition opportunity, trying to play the killer ball for Beakhurst. It's cut out. Guess. Clark steps in with the challenge. Govan has to clear. Godoy climbing all over the back of Wade Decker. And he may have come off worse for wear there. Saw, I think it was Luke Pilkington from Dandenong City last week sustained a rather similar injury going up for a header. And he had to go off with concussion. We hope it's not nearly as serious for Kaio de Godoy. He seems to be back on his feet rather quickly.
I think Adam Piddick will be pleased to see that Kaio de Godoy is able to stay on, not just from a substitutions perspective, but those two fullbacks are critical to the way that Port Melbourne like to play their football.
Eager stepping in with a header. Good covering challenge from Pavlu again. And now Decker. And he just can't pick out Fashini. Last few weeks it seemed as if everything Wade Decker has touched has turned to gold, but this week just hasn't quite come off for him. Now Fashini, oh, and that's a dangerous ball in. No one touched it. Harry White lashing out at the frame of the goal in frustration. Has come mightily close to scoring on at least one occasion. A little hard-working striker who does all the simple things that Chris Taylor likes to see from his attacking players. Closing down defenders, going after loose balls, going up for headers even if he's well and truly second favourite. Oh, and it's interesting here. I think Morwith has been yellow carded for time wasting.
Look, I know he's a confident young lad, but it seems a little bit early for this sort of thing, doesn't it, Josh?
You would have thought so. I've never seen anyone booked for time wasting in the first half before. John Honos was penalised for that in the second half of last week's games after a long and protracted dispute between him and the Dandy City bench. He's White with a ambitious and wayward effort.
It's not the kind of shot you want to have if you're trying to justify your inclusion ahead of a striker who scored 2 goals in the previous game. Not the way to justify your inclusion to Chris Taylor there.
Into first half stoppage time now. Well and truly, and we're at the referee's discretion. And Morwith has actually gone ahead and switched the point of the goal kick again. The referee having words with Ramazan Tavsan-Sioglu. You mentioned he's a confident young man, Lockie. It shows a lot of confidence to do exactly the same thing just moments after you've been booked for time wasting. Perhaps wasn't quite as egregious on that occasion.
I believe Troy Deeney would call them cojones.
And the flag's up against Joe Guest. And that will do it for the first half. Referee blowing time on an intriguing and pretty entertaining opening 45 here at Jack Edwards Reserve. Oakleigh Cannons, well, could their charmed run be coming to an end? 5-game winning streak, but Michael Eager, the centre-back from the visiting Port Melbourne Sharks, has given them an early advantage, which they've more than deserved. And we go in 1-0 to the visitors.
Well, it's in the past 2 weeks been Oakleigh who have been the beneficiary of early goals. It's allowed them to settle in and defend and nick goals on the break, but they really have to be, you know, the aggressor, which is not necessarily, and the possession-dominant team, which is not necessarily something that they're used to as we head towards this second half, as they chase an equaliser and maybe even more.
We'll be back in 15 minutes. Plenty for Chris Taylor to think about at the break. Lockie Flanagan and me, Josh Parrish, signing off for now. Welcome back to Jack Edwards Reserve here in Melbourne Southeast for Oakleigh Cannons against Port Melbourne Sharks. It is 1-0 to the visiting Sharks after an early opener from centre-back Michael Eager, the captain with his second goal in the space of 2 weeks. Doesn't often get on the score sheet, but he's found some rich goal-scoring form, and that's put Adam Piddock's side 1-0 up at the break. What can Oakleigh muster in the second half? Coming off 5 straight wins in NPL Victoria. Is their streak about to be broken? Josh Parrish here on the mic alongside Lockie Flanagan. Lockie, welcome back.
Josh, it's a big second half that we've got in store here. It's could be a really important result for this Port Melbourne. You know, one thing that as they've been pushing for that top 6 spot, you know, battling with Oakleigh and a number of other teams in that densely packed midfield, they have beaten all the teams below them, and you have to do that when things are as tight as it is. But they haven't yet got a result from a team above them. You know, they've got a couple of draws against Green Gully and Avondale, but they haven't beaten one of those sides. So to beat a direct competitor above them, albeit by one position in Oakleigh, would be a huge potential result for the Sharkies.
Would you say it's a potential final 6-pointer?
Yes, a finals preview, maybe even a pre-final final, perhaps.
Every game's a final at this point of the season.
Well, especially with teams in this sort of region of the table. Every game is so important. You can't afford to slip up.
It's an unbelievably tight, packed middle of the pack as that one just rolls out of.
Well, I think there's without having the stats to hand, I think there's 1 point separating Melbourne Knights, Port Melbourne, South Melbourne, and Altona Magic, and then even then Oakleigh are only 3 points in front of that. So it's as tight can be, to be honest.
Port Melbourne impressed in the first half. Lucky I haven't commentated them before, and they have a reputation as a very disciplined defensive side, but I've been very impressed with the quality of their football so far.
Yeah, statistically it's that they do have a defensive record that's equal almost to the Oakleigh Cannons, who are known for their defensive abilities as well. So you're sort of looking at that stat sheet, expect them to be a team that tactically is set up a little bit more similarly to Oakleigh, but in fact, in possession, they've controlled it well and they've been very progressive moving forward.
Pashkowski buying a corner off Karoma. Very athletic player. Ryan Pashkowski, very versatile as well, can play left back, up front even, scored 22 goals in a season in State League 1 for Mornington a few years ago before I moved to the Bentley Greens and conversion to a wide role. Patchy delivers into the danger area, and it's Ramo didn't get much of a clean connection on it. He gets a second opportunity, then that's going to float harmlessly behind for a goal kick. And let's keep your eyes firmly stuck on Majak Morwith in goal, because he was already booked for time wasting in the first half, and it hasn't really seemed to change his behaviour at all.
It does make you wonder, has there ever been a player who's received 2 yellow cards for time wasting? One of the strangest sendings off ever. If it happens, of course. It'd be a shame to see him go, though. He has been a very positive performer in between the sticks for Port Melbourne tonight.
Absolutely. Miller with headers 1 and 2. Here's Pashkowski again, closed down by Amadou Karoma. And the hard work of the wide players, both the fullbacks and also even the wingers, Beakhurst and Ibrahim, to cover those attacking fullbacks when necessary has been impressive. Here's Beakhurst for Karoma. Pumps it long. Brodie Taylor will chase this one down all the way back to the goalkeeper, John Honos. Clark for Ibrahim. Showing off that trademark close control, but the release didn't match the quality of the first touch.
You mentioned the influence of the Port Melbourne wide players in that first half, but I think one player that maybe has gone a little bit unnoticed for the viewers and maybe for us as well, because he hasn't had as much of the ball, is the number 7 there in the middle of the park, or up front, sorry, leading the line. It's Brodie Taylor.
Brodie Taylor,
number
yes,
7.
correct.
Yeah, he's I understand that he wears a lot of different hats going forward. He can shuffle across that front 3, but he's been really effective as a focal point, as we see here again.
He's
linking up the attacks.
Beakhurst. Taylor certainly versatile performer. Mid-season transfer from Bentley Greens in search of first-team football. He can play in central midfield, across the front three. Pretty much a jack of all trades. Morth. For Eager. Ibrahim. Flick-on was intended for the number 11 in white, but it only found the number 11 in blue, Wade Decker. Matthews for Fashini. Guest. Havlu under pressure from Conagaya. Conagaya nicked it off his toes, but couldn't keep it in play. Rama letting it run. Cleared again by Honos. And Eager versus Guest. Know who's going to be favourite in that heading duel. Bit of a scrappy start to this second half. Here's Daniel Clark. Daniel Clark sprays a good one out to Kamal Ibrahim, who sizes up Tom Matthews. But he's lost his touch there. And now Oakleigh will have a chance. It's Decker who's beaten Clark in midfield. Sprays out left for Pashkowski. Referee playing advantage after Decker was brought down off the ball. Guest. Guest says he had his ankles clipped. Referee disagrees. It's back the other way with Clark. Looking for Beakhurst. Beakhurst, and that's a little too heavy for Conagaya, and Rama will step in. Look at the reaction of the Port Melbourne players as soon as they lose the ball, closing down that space, and they've been rewarded by winning the ball back. Taylor wants it to his feet. To Godoy, and Port Melbourne slow things down a touch. Matthews. Matthews gets the throw quickly to the feet of Guest. Will take on Ferns. Ferns has done well to keep up with Joe Guest. And the Oakleigh bench think that's a free kick. Joe Guest certainly thought it was a free kick. The man in the black thought otherwise. Pashkowski. Conagaya with some lovely one-touch football. And he's raced away in midfield. The Japanese technician. Now with Ibrahim. Clark. Looking for Beakhurst out wide. Beakhurst will take on Miller. And Miller's done well. And so is Pashkowski. And he's been brought down, Pashkowski. Referee decides there was no advantage accruing. Matthews with a little touch down the line for Decker. Matthews gets it back, tries to deliver into the area, but De Godoy is quick on the close. Oakleigh have had quite a number of set-piece opportunities in this fixture thus far. It's Ryan Pashkowski, the man tasked with delivering the vast majority of them. That powerful, cultured left foot of his, headed away by McCare. Pavlu. Pashkowski, the first time cross, didn't come off as he'd like. It's a lovely chip ball for Joe Guest to deliver into the area, and it's again the towering frame of McCare, who heads away. Brother of NBA star Thon McCare. Doesn't quite have the borderline 7-foot frame, but certainly got plenty of height in his side.
I mean, I know it's a little bit cliche to equate him to his brother, but he does legitimately progress a nice, ability to pass the ball out of that defense. So he does distribute the ball as his point guard brother would do, distribute the ball nicely, and works both ways, of course.
I'm not sure McKay's a point guard. It's more of a
I
power
just
forward.
embarrassed myself. Lack of NBA knowledge. Got him confused with another irreverent NBA basketballer. I know the league name. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow, that one. To live that one down.
Does like to play a little bit of point forward, I suppose, for the Detroit Pistons. So I'll let you off the hook there, Lockie. Away by Clark. Now with Harry White. Lovely turn. Delivers with his left. And again away by McKay. Seems to be a magnet to the ball. Fashini. Dangerous one. And a really crucial challenge from McKay there. Risked everything, his body, a penalty. But it's paid off for Port Melbourne. Fantastic desperation defending. Now Guest. Intercepted by Ibrahim. And away come the Sharks. Brady Taylor, I think he was trying to spot John Honos off his line there. Slipped under the pressure of the challenge from Decker. An ambitious effort from borderline halfway territory. That was always too tough for Ryan Pashkowski to keep in. De Godoy's throw. Konagaya might have a shot on goal here. It's well over the bar.
It's been a mixed bag of an evening for Konagaya so far. He has had a couple of nice little dynamic darting runs diagonally across the face of goal, but a couple of moments where his final ball has just let him down.
Joint best and fairest winner last season for the Sharks, alongside Michael Eager. Formerly of Blacktown City in the New South Wales NPL. Karoma. Konagaya again, gets it back. Good defending from Decker, but he couldn't release White. McKay will go back to Morwith. Here's McKay. Lofted ball in the direction of Beakhurst. He chests it down for Brody Taylor. Back with Beakhurst. 1-2 doesn't quite come off. Decker. Pavley. Great tackle from Beakhurst, but Oakleigh managed to hold on to possession. Lovely 1-2. Oh, that's just evaded Tom Matthews. Rama cleaning up at the back again. They do have some attacking quality on the bench tonight, Oakleigh Cannons, should they need it. Konagaya looking for Taylor. Miller with some good recovery pace. It's not only Milos Lujic, the goal scorer, not once but twice last week. Right place, right time. For a combined range of about 5 metres, I must say. Lucky, but put it in the back of the net, and that's what counts. Good for Beakhurst. But it's also the creative Goran Zoric. One of Oakleigh's longest serving players. Certainly a very technical and intelligent player. There's a very good connection with Wade Decker as well. Chris Taylor doesn't usually make too many subs too early. Ibrahim with the step overs. Ibrahim has a side on goal. Well, comfortably in the end. Handled by John Honos.
I know I did bang the drum for him in the first half. I've already done it. I know I've foreshadowed the substitution. But looking at the way Oakleigh are playing, lots of crosses into the box and into promising central areas at that, it really does seem set up for the number 99 to come on and get his head on one of them, or his foot as he so famously did last week.
Would you advocate a straight swap for Harry White, or sacrifice a midfielder, maybe play them up top together? As it's actually Port Melbourne who turn to their substitutes bench first, and off comes Brodie Taylor. And on is the number 9, Sam Ford. Much more of a traditional striker than Brodie Taylor, who you could argue is playing as more of a false 9. It looks like it could be, in fact, just the one change for Port Melbourne. The Englishman Sam Ford is had 5 goals in 20 appearances for the Sharks. Many of those coming as a substitute. He's played in the lower divisions in England. In the Isthmian League with North Division Felixstowe. Here he is. That one's deflected out for a corner. Former youth player at both Ipswich Town and West Ham. So some Premier League pedigree on his CV, at least in his younger days. Eager at the back post, and Honos well saved. Eager trying to add to his growing goal tally to this evening. Here's Ibrahim. Back with McCare. It's a poor ball from McCare. And now Matthews streaming forward. The right back. Cedes possession to Guest. Back with Decker, looking for a run. Decker twisting and turning at the top of the box. Can't get a shot or a pass away in the end. And now Ford. An opportunity in transition. He wants to play in Beakhurst, but it's too heavy. Rummer. In for Decker. Decker flicks it on to Harry White, but McCare again with another crucial intervention. It's been outstanding this evening, especially in this second half, Lockie.
Has indeed. He's got a point to prove, playing against a former manager in Chris Taylor as well.
Here's Conor Geyer, looking for a shot on goal. Conor Geyer saved by Honos. Always a dangerous player to give space to, Yuta Conor Geyer. Flags up on this near side for Harry White. Home supporters behind the linesman making their feelings known about the decision, but at least from our vantage point, Lockie, looked like a correct one to me.
Didn't seem the correct call. It's always so difficult to tell. I can't imagine anyone who would want to be a linesman. It's such a difficult job. Things happen at such a breakneck speed. At least at a professional level, you've got VAR to potentially bail you out. I don't want to open up a whole can of worms there, but you know, at the NPL level, you haven't got that benefit of a replay. It's such a difficult call to make, but I think you and I can both agree that that one, at least, was the correct one.
Ferns with McKay. And the substitutes board will go up again very shortly, and I think it might be that man, Lockie.
I saw 2 9s next to each other on that subs board. If I wasn't holding the microphone, I'd be rubbing my hands together with some level of excitement.
I may be mistaken, but I think I can see a 11 in red, which suggests that Wade Decker will be the man to be replaced. Not entirely sure from this distance. He's guessed for Pashkowski. And Morwith. Oh, he spilt it, Morwith. Chance for Joe Guest. 2 scores. A calamitous moment for Majak Morwith in the Port Melbourne goal. And Oakleigh are gifted an equaliser.
Well, we've spent the better part of 50 or 60 minutes pumping up his tyres, Majak Morwith in goals, talking about what a player he's been, and an uncharacteristic moment there, just allowing the ball to slip through his fingers there, and you know, Joe Guest, he's a player who, you know, he doesn't pass up opportunities like that. It was a golden one.
I have to credit the composure of Joe Guest there. It was almost like in tennis when a player lobs up a gimme of a point and you have to gather yourself, and it's not always the easiest thing to volley that into the net. Beakus coming down the other end, looking for forward. He's Daniel Clark and Decker clearing.
It's very easy in those moments for the panic of the occasion to set in. You just run forward and try and smack it first time, but he was composed there.
Very aware of the time that he had, which in a crowded penalty area for most players is not the case. The way it was bouncing up, he did have to wait for it to drop. It was almost an agonising slow motion moment, but that's the play you want in that situation on his left foot. It's the technical quality of Joe Guest.
This really changes the script of this game quite dramatically. You know, obviously with Oakleigh having that not a 3-point advantage still over Port Melbourne if scores stay as they are.
And now he's Guest again. What can he come up with here? Appeals for handball. Referee waves it away.
But given that lead on the table for Oakleigh, you'd suspect that they'd be the happier of the two with a 1-1 draw.
Hasn't the pace picked up here? Now Beakhurst, crunching challenge. I wonder if that goal has changed Chris Taylor's plans.
Well, you think, obviously, with Port Melbourne probably being the side who needs the win more out of these two.
He's White's good tackle from Curran Ferns. And Fashini was frustrated he didn't get the ball earlier.
You'd think, given that Port Melbourne will have to be the aggressors and try and get that leading goal, but you could probably make the argument that favours Oakleigh in a way, you know, as it will allow more transitional opportunities for them, which is their specialty.
Absolutely. Oakleigh are a team when they go ahead or when the other team has to attack them, they look so much more effective. I think I saw the numbers being changed on that substitutes board. It might indeed be Goran Zoric coming on instead to perhaps replace Ryan Pashkowski, although we'll have to wait and see.
Chris Taylor playing games with us over on that far-hand side.
Honest clearing. Karoma. Ibrahim. Now Ferns. That was the wrong pass from Curran Ferns. Now Decker. Guest. Fashini. Matthews. Now Guest again. Might have a crack for in distance. He does. It's floated harmlessly over, but when he's got that kind of space, you wouldn't really begrudge Joe Guest to crack on goal.
He's certainly a player who has the ability to fire them from range. Hasn't quite shown it tonight. His goal did come a little bit closer to home, closer to the goal line, but certainly a player of immense technical quality. So you can't really begrudge him, given the fact that he's the only reason that really Oakleigh are level in this game. You can't begrudge him having another bite of the cherry just there.
Honest sliding to gather the header back from Rama. Now White, well defended by McCare. And now the substitution will be made, and it's, in fact, Port Melbourne to make another change. Off comes Curran Ferns. Confirmation of the player introduced shortly. Now Decker. Yes. Looks for Pashkowski. McCare fields it and clears. Turn from Clark. Another brilliant challenge from Ramatav Sansioglu. The veteran. Decker feeding Guest. Guest does well to keep his feet. Decker to the back post. And it was White's header, and it's onto the roof of the net. Another opportunity goes begging for Oakleigh. Here's Guest. McCare. Caroma. Closed down. Now Guest again. His shot was blocked by his own player. Pashkowski gets a second chance. Morwith should field this one. He's actually let that one almost slip from his grasp again. What was an excellent evening for the goalkeeper has turned into something of a nightmare. Eager. Ibrahim. Now with Ford. Ford was crowded out, but Connor Geyer comes in there battling for the ball, and referee calls a free kick. Clark. Built up well here with Ford. Out to the right for Beakhurst. Cross goal and agonisingly wide. Took a touch on the way through, says the referee. John Honus disagrees, but that's the corner. Ibrahim's corner. Plenty forward here for Port. Can't beat the first man, and we'll have a redo. Ibrahim with the throw. Nice little touch around the corner. He's forward. Forward with a shot on goal. It's an excellent effort. A great save by Honos. Fantastic turn and shot by Sam Ford, and the substitute already making an impact.
Ford has been super lively since coming off the bench in this game as Port Melbourne look to take a quick corner here, but it's cut out.
Beakhurst continues to stride forward. Beakhurst and hasn't managed to find a teammate. Back with Karoma for Clark. And that free kick will go the way of Oakleigh after Clark pulled down Hamish Miller. Port Melbourne think the initial foul was actually from Miller, but the linesman was right on the spot. And we will see that substitution made now for Oakleigh Cannons. Off comes Ryan Pashkowski, and on in his place is Goran Zoric. Decker. Matthews. To the back post for Morwith. He spilt it again. And Port Melbourne managed to clear their lines, but the goalkeeper's confidence has obviously been shaken. Ibrahim. McCare. Pavlu wins the ball, and just the pass evades the feet of Wade Decker. Eager for Clark, who's drifted wide. Conagaya. Back to Clark. Away by Govan. And now Guest. With space to run. There's Fashini on his right. Fashini with the long switch in the direction of the substitute Zoric, but the ball was just too long in the air and Karoma stepped in. Now Zoric
gets a telegraph there from Fashini.
Yes. Criticism you could level at Oakleigh is their attacking patterns are a little too predictable at times. Beakhurst. Sidesteps Pavlu. Now Guest. Guest with another crack on goal, and high, wide, and not so handsome. See another substitution made here. I think it's Alan Kearney who's coming on. Yes, indeed, the Irishman to replace Kamal Ibrahim. So, I have to say, a bit of a defensive-minded change for Port Melbourne.
Yeah, perhaps not the change that I thought Port Melbourne would make. I did think that they'd be chasing the 3 points rather than trying to defend a 1-1. As Josh, I'll throw it to you because here we go.
Here we go, indeed. Off comes Wade Decker, and on in his place is NPL legend Milos Lujic. Fresh off a brace last week. What can the veteran conjure up here at Jacko Wood's reserve? Port Melbourne going defensive. And Oakleigh Cannons throwing the kitchen sink.
A little bit of a shame that we don't get to see that illustrious combination, that relationship that exists between Goran Zoric and Wade Decker, but I mean, it's not as if there's not a good replacement coming on.
It just hasn't been his night, Wade Decker. He's been in outstanding form recently, but none of his usual tricks have come off. Guest. And we've had confirmation that the mystery number 13 Lockie is in fact Liam Ward from Port Melbourne. Now it's a push in the back on Rammer.
I knew that, Josh.
It's been impressive since his introduction, Ward. Hasn't played since early April. Zoric. Good cross. Up in the air. And Gas fires over the crossbar. What an opportunity. Gone begging.
Chance in a similar area there as his opening goal. Joey Guest there, but not quite the same result, unfortunately.
Very similar situation. A lofted ball. Wasn't quite dealt with by the defence.
That one was perhaps a little bit snatchier of a strike than the first one, but given the closing defence around him from Port Melbourne, you can sort of understand it.
Certainly a head in your hands moment if you're Chris Taylor. You think just the mere presence of Milos Lujic has caused panic in the Port Melbourne defence. Kearney for Clark. Turns well in midfield. Been closed down by Guest. Referee waves it off. Flags up on Harry White. Kearney. Rammer. The years of experience. Always reads the game well. Now White with a strike on goal. It's deflected and more with comfortably. White. For Guest. Into the feet of Lujic. Has been wrestled to the ground. Was he wrestling with McCare? Certainly shouts for a penalty from the Oakleigh crowd and from the players. Play goes on. And could it be? Oh, how has that not gone into the back of the net? Milos Lujic. Surely it was easier to score.
I can't quite believe that one hasn't found itself in the bottom corner. That sort of position, this sort of time in the game, that sort of moment, you expect a man of Milos Lujic's decorated history to put it into the onion bag, but the chance goes begging on that occasion. But perhaps not the last that he'll get in this contest. Maybe. I
have to admit, Lockie, I thought it was going to roll in. It had our view slightly obscured by a defensive player, and I think at that range with his head, it was a perfect cross from Foschini. Gets a chance to redeem himself here, Lujic, and it's just wide. Certainly providing a threat off the bench, but that goal-scoring touch from last week has eluded him thus far.
Well, you see the difference in the Oakleigh team with Lujic on the park and with him off it. The tactical system is obviously still the same. There's plenty of crosses into the box. It's very direct. It's moving forwards quickly, but now there is more of a target to head those home, and two big chances from crosses for Milos Lujic in as many minutes.
It's changed shape to a more standard 4-4-2. Have The Oakleigh Cannons, with Fashini moving out to the wing. Guest taking up a slightly deeper position in midfield alongside Pavley. Well, here's Clark for Port Melbourne, away by Govan. Konagaya, and that's a foul, much to the chagrin of the visiting fans. Must have been, I'm not sure about that one. Long balls towards Miloš Lujic again. He knocks it down for Zoric. Back to Lujic. Gets it in the danger area. It's offside on Matt Fashini. He's just the wrong side of his defender. He'll protest all he likes, but he's just simply showed a lack of positional awareness that you don't usually expect from a player with his positional and, well, his experience, I should say.
Well, I suppose in his defence is not generally an area that he's used to occupying, Matt Fashini. Looks to be occupying a bit more of a wide area at this point in the game.
Yeah, he's moved to that sort of right midfield role. That flick-on's found Beakhurst. Cut out by Rammer again. He will clear. The veteran centre-half. Lujic being held by Makaya, and he will win the free kick.
Interesting that the referee decides to give the free kick there. I mean, in my eyes, that was a free kick. There was a hands on the back of Miloš Lujic there, but I have to say that it looked fairly similar to that holding that was going on in the penalty box. So
certainly a comparable incident. It's always harder to give one when it's inside the penalty area, of course.
We
can stand here and give our own armchair criticisms, but when you're actually in the middle of the ground with the whistle, it's not so straightforward.
Josh speaking like someone who's definitely been a referee in a former life.
Once upon a time.
They do have that old cliche that if it was outside the box, you would have given it. It's almost coming to life there.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't find it in the laws of the game anywhere, but there is a slightly different threshold, unspoken, unwritten rule. That's quite a falcon for Daniel Clark. Matthews needs an option. It's goes infield instead to Guest. Now Miller. Zoric. Having a dangerous diagonal ball towards the head of Lujic. Now it's Harry White. To Godoy. Crucial intervention. Oakleigh have come on strong here in the last few minutes. Karoma and Zoric battling for it. Referee says play on. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Kearney with a good win in midfield, and he'll release Daniel Clark. Clark looking for Beakhurst. Sizes up Hamish Miller, and his ball is intercepted by Pavley, but Clark gets the scraps. It's blocked. And that's out for a corner. Liam Ward winning the set-piece opportunity, and I think that's a yellow card for dissent for Goran Zoric. Sam Ford has lost a boot in all of that. Honos fielding the corner well and preventing a potential Olympico.
Honos looking comparatively comfortable claiming those balls in the air as opposed to as a goalkeeper in the opposite posts.
Guest stepping away from Karoma's challenge. It's just evaded Harry White. And Liam Ward will pass to no one in particular, just anywhere will do for Port Melbourne, who've been on top for, well, you must say the majority of the first half and patches in this second, but Oakleigh certainly the team in the ascendancy. Kearney picks up possession. Beakhurst. Back with Kearney. Now Clark. Ford. We'll have another crack on goal. Sam Ford just tried to do a little bit too much. Now Zorich will spray a through ball for Sheeny to run onto. Surely a foul, yes. It's Eager who will go into the book now. And this is most definitely shooting range, although two of their preferred set piece takers are off the field in Pashkowski and Decker. I'm sure Joe Guest will fancy it with his left foot, although at the moment Harry White seems intent on taking this one. And Govan's getting the goalkeeper's face as he's trying to set up the wall. In mind games from the centre half. And Harry White will approach this one. And will strike on goal. It's comfortable in the end for Morwith. Trying the slightly unorthodox, maybe even going for a knuckleball there.
Yeah, always difficult. And was thinking this before the shot was eventually taken. Always difficult for a right footer to take on a free kick from that kind of area. It usually does take something of a worldie to beat the keeper, and that certainly wasn't.
I ideally certainly would have opted for the left foot of Joe Guest in that situation, but White seemed pretty intent on claiming it straight off the bat.
Oh, I think when you've got someone with the heading capabilities of Milos Luch in the middle and you've scored from a set piece the week before through Govan, surely you're trying to cross the ball into the area there.
Well, given Morwith's struggles off the crosses, he's come out again here. That one's cleanly held. Certainly balls into the box have been a great threat for Oakleigh Cannons. As Liam Ward sprays a nice ball out to Ford here on the left-hand side. Ford takes on the cross himself. And Honos releases Zorich. Been bright and creative since his introduction. Commentator's curse, Lockie.
That wouldn't be the first time it's happened this evening, Josh, or maybe even at this venue.
Conagaya. Oh, lovely touch to beat Matthews. He's taken on all comers here, Conagaya, but he just didn't have any support. Luch wants it in early. He gets it in early. Find its way all the way through for Zorich. Ahead of Michael Eager. And that will do it here at Jack Edwards Reserve. An evenly fought contest. Dominant in the first half from Port Melbourne, but Oakleigh came back strong in the second. Michael Eager opened the scoring for the visitors, but a second half equaliser from the star English import Joe Guest. Following an error from Port Melbourne goalkeeper Majak Morwith means the score ends 1-1.
Well, the manner of the equaliser for Oakleigh was somewhat fortuitous, but when you're on a run like they are, you know, prior to this, winning the last 5, haven't lost in 10, now 11 games, those are the sort of opportunities that do come when you've got, you know, form on your side. So, you know, getting a little bit of a bailout, but having said that, they did figure a lot more in the second half. They did move the ball very nicely, and maybe it was sort of honours, split between two halves in the end.
And I'm sure Milos Lujic will be reliving that point-blank range header that he had in the second half. It somehow just trickled to the goalkeeper's palms rather than bulging the back of the net as we all anticipated it would.
Well, I think if this is any other version of Milos Lujic, that one's in the back of the net. But unfortunately, lightning not striking twice for the formerly Magic Milos. 2 goals last week, but couldn't quite have the same influence when he came on this week.
The result doesn't do much for either side in their chase for finals football. Certainly a long way to go here in the NPL Victoria season with that tight logjam of teams in the middle of the table. But from myself, Josh Parrish, and Lockie Flanagan, that's all from us for now.